Yeah, it's funny. The Mets blow the Dodgers out, and Don Mattingly's probably eventually going to get fired for the Dodgers. We live in this world now. Every game's televised. There's media everywhere. And I was saying this the other day. If you really look at society, I don't care if you're talking Apple, I don't care if you're talking the biggest law firm, how many lawyers are great? You know, the average lawyer in America makes $67,000. That's the average one. That's not a great lawyer. Okay, great lawyers make seven figures. Great lawyers have unbelievable client Rolodexes, right? So, you know, like how many surgeons, when you go into a hospital, do you think are great? I mean, they're all qualified, but somebody's getting C's in med school, right? Like you look around society, Sully Sullenberger lands that plane in the Hudson. How many people could have done that? Really? When you look around, what real estate, it's like 20% of real estate brokers make 80% of the money. In America, I think it's a similar stat. 8% of the people make 90% of the money, something like that. So as far as like professionally, I'm not talking about anything other than professionally. How many people are great? Not many. How many people are terrible managing in the big leagues? Not really many. Two people in sports right now, Mark Richt, the Georgia football coach, and Don Mattingly, the Dodgers manager. Everybody wants to get rid of Mark Richt every year. And all he does is win 10 games in the toughest conference over the last 12, 15 years. He's won 13, he's won 11, he's won 10, 10, 10, 11. He's had a couple down years, but sometimes your quarterback gets hurt. Sometimes in a tough conference, your schedule's brutal. I mean, Nick Saban's not as good today as he was 3 years ago in that conference, right? And I watched Don Mattingly, and Don Mattingly's probably going to get whacked, but I've watched this series. The Mets are a better team. I like the Mets bullpen. The Mets have more reliable sticks. Who's a reliable stick for the Dodgers? Adrian Gonzalez? Carl Crawford? You got to be kidding me. They don't really have a setup guy. They basically need Kershaw to go 8 2/3 and the closer to come in. I mean, Mattingly keeps winning his division, a division in which the San Francisco Giants, one of the best organizations in baseball, are their neighbor. And they keep winning it. And he wins a lot of games. Then he goes into the playoffs. All right. I know the Dodgers have a lineup full of well-paid, well-compensated people. How great are they? Is it possible because their bullpen so-so? They're the classic built for the regular season, not the postseason. Those Cardinal teams and those Giants teams, they had good bullpens. That Red Sox team that won. Remember the Red Sox team, the last one that won? Their bullpen, shaky. Bullpen got great late. They won the World Series. You know, so I look at Mark Richt and I look at Don Mattingly, and they're probably not A's, but they're not F's. I mean, here's a prime example. What happens in baseball is just from basically looking at data, people don't watch regular season baseball much. Even fans who go to the games in the regular season, you worked all day, you go to the game, you talk to a friend, you see it, you watch it, but you'll watch it. But we watch baseball in the postseason. And so now everybody's eating alive Don Mattingly because in Game 1 Friday, nobody wants to give credit to Jacob deGrom and the bullpen of the Mets. No, it's that Mattingly made that move in the seventh inning. Clayton Kershaw was great. Oh, wait, he walks the bases full, and Kershaw then gets pulled. Well, yeah, he'd thrown 113 pitches. He has pinpoint control and suddenly couldn't throw a strike. So you go to the bullpen, and David Wright was coming up, who's a good righty hitter, and Kershaw is a lefty, and Wright has a history of hitting left-handed pitchers, and Don Mattingly makes the move, and what do you know? Wright hits a 99-mile-an-hour fastball from the bullpen guy and gets a hit, and everybody's like, oh, Mattingly's a bum. Is he, or is maybe the Dodger team built for the regular season, but postseason baseball is about having a good bullpen and having dependable situational hitters, and they don't have them. I'm watching this series. Mets are a better team. Mets are a better team. Cespedes now is hitting again. They've got a better bullpen. They've matched them pitch for pitch as starting pitching. You know, and I say that with Mark Richt all the time. Well, I mean, they keep winning 10.5, 11 games, 9 games at Georgia. Well, they lost this weekend, and but they won that weekend. But Tom Verducci came on my show yesterday, and I asked him, I said, if the Dodgers lose this series, what happens, Tom, to Don Mattingly?
Probably more than a 50-50 chance, yeah. If they don't get through the first round, it is a group that inherited this manager. The fact is he's not their guy. There's always that tendency when you come in and buy a team, bring in a new front office, to want someone who has the exact same philosophies as you. To me, I'm sure Mattingly, if he gets fired, will pop up somewhere else and will become an even better manager.
Are we overstating the Georgia football roster? Are we overstating the Dodger roster? Bullpen, They were only 10-17 against the 4 National League playoff teams this year. Who's their reliable sticks? They don't have a setup guy. I mean, you look at that Dodger lineup. Where are their sticks? Who you rely on and feel great about in a pinch? Really? Terry Collins was an idiot 6 months ago when the Mets couldn't hit. Now suddenly Terry Collins is manager of the year material. Is Kershaw Don Mattingly's issue? Andrew Friedman, they say, puts the lineup in, the general manager. They hired Wallach to put him on the bench as a bench coach to sit next to him. Managers have never had more information. I mean, what can Mattingly do? I'm watching that game last night. It's not a Mattingly issue. It's a roster issue. So, I think what happens, though, is we see everything. We watch all these games and we micromanage, and it's social media, and guys get beat up, and there's momentum on Twitter, and there's momentum on Facebook, and the guy is a bum. I don't think Mattingly's an A. I don't think he's a D. To some degree, we are so tough on – how many college basketball coaches are A's? Izzo – I mean, even Bill Self, Lute Olson were like one-and-dones for years in the tournament. Jim Boeheim's a legendary coach. He's got 1 title. How many guys are A's? I don't think there's many. But I think what happens now is that when guys like Harbaugh go out and they're good from the first minute, we judge our coach against that. Or we judge our manager against Bruce Bochy. There's not a lot of Bruce Bochys out there. There's not, it's why guys have affairs. You're like, oh, the grass is always greener. There's not a lot of Joe Maddens out there. Joe Madden is an outlier. He was Johnny Cochran as an attorney. He was Steve Jobs. They handed Apple to Tim Cook. It's not the same company, is it? Maybe not as good, is it? Well, there's only one Steve Jobs.